Well, welcome back to Growth Groups. And this week, as we continue our study, we just have this week and next week left. And I hope that the series has been a help and an encouragement to you. Of course, I am joined today by my mom, Judy Fountain, and looking forward to our discussion today as we continue in our study. We've been looking, of course, Balancing Act is the series we're going through, learning to steward different avenues of our life and try to balance the areas of our life. And we've already talked through finances and time. We've talked about health. We've talked about our testimony. We've talked about our gospel conversation. We've talked about trials. And then, of course, last week we were with Pastor Carrie Schmidt talking about our thoughts. And this week, we're actually going to be looking at the topic of stewarding or the balancing act in our family and managing our family, investing the Lord into our family in whatever state we're in, whatever area of life or life stage that we're in. And so that is why my mom is with me. We have had a great family dynamic. Our family has always been very close. And so when we were prepping for this, Pastor Brian and I thought immediately of my mom and asking her some questions. And so, Mom, it's good to have you.
It's good to be here.
Thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I'm glad we could do this. So we're hoping to make it through this without a lot of interruptions, but my mom is senile a lot of days. And most days. And so, no, we're going to have a good time. When we talk about stewarding our family or investing the Lord into our family, I think of two very quick Bible passages, and they might be there on your notes. Hebrews chapter 2 and verse number 13, the author of Hebrews said this. He said, "Again, I will put my trust in him, and again, behold, I am the children which God has given me." And so just the mindset that I am going to steward my family and invest God into my family while I have them. And then, of course, the Old Testament passage in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 9. Here's what was written. "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, all thy soul, with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. Shalt talk of them when you sit down in thine house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. Thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand, and shalt be as frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house and on thy gates." Really, just the understanding, of course, the message from God to the people of investing God into your family, making the Word of God a very crucial part of your family, making your life and your family built upon the foundation of Jesus and of His Word. And so that is going to be our conversation right now. And so, Mom, I want to jump into some questions, ask you. Of course, I think you and Dad did a decent job. Well, you guys did a decent job with me. I can't say much about my sisters. They both still pray for my sisters. They still need the Lord. But can I ask you some questions?
Crazy. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you this. I gave those two verses. Let me just ask you, what are some Bible passages that maybe helped you and Dad invest the Lord into the family?
Okay, so I think I like Ephesians, where the husbands are commanded to love their wives. And 1 Peter 3:7, the wives are commanded to submit yourselves to your husbands. So on those two things, I feel like my husband, your father, he was not a dictator. He was not a controller. And to submit myself to him was easy because he was not a dictator. He wanted the best for me. He wanted the best for you guys. And I love the verse talks about the prodigal son. And thank God that I didn't have any prodigal children. I don't think I did.
Yeah, you did.
So,
My sisters.
I don't think so. They'll listen to him. But I love that verse where the father was so loving and kind and forgiving. And I always, no matter what happened, my husband and I always talked about our door would always be open to our children, no matter what. And no matter what, our home is always open to them.
Yeah, and I tell people often, excuse me, I tell people often that I remember you and Dad always just putting an emphasis on the Lord in the home. And I think watching you and watching Dad live out your faith every day was a big part of how God was invested into our family. And I'm talking about Bible passages that you guys, I remember Dad used to have that Hebrews verse that he would always talk about, investing in the Lord. And again, I will put my trust in him and the children that God's given me. Let me ask you this question. What do you think are some of our biblical responsibilities to the family? So whatever, now we have all of our growth groups watching this, so there's kids and teenagers and singles and couples and widows and retirees and all life stages. So what are some biblical responsibilities that we have within the family in those different life stages?
Well, if it's a Christian home where the mother and father are both Christian, I feel like that the dad should step up and be the leader of the home. The mom should allow that. She should not balk him at all. I don't think that the parents should compete with one another. Kids, if your mom says no, you shouldn't go ask your dad without him not knowing that the mom's already said no. That many times causes confusion. I don't think my children ever did that.
Not to my knowledge. Or wait, not to your knowledge.
I'm sure. And the mom should, both parents should always be there for the kids, no matter what. I feel like we tried to do that with you guys. We tried to, activities and stuff that you have in school, and they got kind of boring and tiring, but we were always trying to be there for you.
That was mainly Dawn and Dina's activities.
Yeah.
Mine were always great. Yeah.
You didn't, never mind. So,
and I'm humble about that
yeah,
too.
you very are. Okay, what else? I don't remember.
Well, when we talk about the biblical responsibilities, the Bible really
boundaries.
does have a lot of different responsibilities that we would have for fathers, of course, being the leader,
Sure.
wife being submissive, children being obedient.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, and this we didn't rehearse this, so I'm throwing it on you, so I'm sorry. But I want to talk for just a second to maybe our folks that aren't in a family right now. They're singles,
Single, right.
maybe college age, or in a stage of life where they're single again. For them, what is their responsibility in maybe their family or their relationships? Can you think of any?
Yes, we have some singles in our family, and I think if there is no dad or there is no mom figure in the family, the other figure needs to take the lead. And I feel like with our family, we tried to do family devotions every day, at least pray with the kids every single day. You're going to have to set boundaries. It's going to be, I feel like, a little bit harder with just a single parent. Never been a single parent, so I have no idea what that's like, just being in the ministry and seeing people to be single parents. But it can be done with the Lord's help, but you have to possibly get some counseling. Just stay in your word, stay in prayer, always be open with your children. Just try to lead them the best that you can, the best way that you know how to lead them, and just, keep your eyes focused on the Lord and keep him completely centered of your home.
Yeah, that's a great thought, especially for the single parents. And then I would mention this for those of you that aren't even married and don't have children, you're in that single state of life. I'm reminded of what Paul wrote in the book of 1 Corinthians in chapter number 7, and that is whatever stage of life we're in, to be content and to be pursuing the Lord. So there may be some of you, I'm thinking of our singles group that meet on Tuesday night, some of you that don't have a relationship right now. And so you're thinking, well, how do I invest the Lord into my family? Really, that is you investing the Lord into your life right now for what God might have for you in the future. Our teenagers, it's not you right now looking around and saying, all right, who am I going to marry? I'm 15 years old. The idea is invest the Lord into your life now so that when you have a family, you're a dad or a mom, husband or a wife, that you have already invested the Lord into your heart. And so you're able to continue to invest God at that stage of life. So being content where we are and investing the Lord where we are.
Plus, I would add to, I feel like with parents, everything you do reflects on your children. And as I get older and watch my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, you teenagers and you younger children, you're going to remember things that your parents have done, good and bad. And parents, we need to do the very best we can because they will imitate you. They will. It just is the way it is. And so just keep that in mind as you're going to have squabbles, you're going to have issues, just part of life. But to fix them, you can only fix them with the Lord Jesus, the very center of your home.
Yeah, and that's where the responsibility falls on us to only control us and know that, I'm thinking of our kids right now. You just spoke to that. Kids, the stage of life you're in, hey, right now the best thing for you is to obey mom and dad, to follow them and to learn about the Lord. And you think, well, how can I, as I'm only in 4th grade, I'm in 6th grade, how can I invest Jesus into my home? It's by you following the Lord and by you asking your mom and dad, hey, how can I follow God in our home? And your mom and dad will definitely help you with that. Let me ask you this question, because I know there are some families in our church that have lost relatives within their home.
Yeah.
Some of them just maybe an aunt and uncle or something like that. But how should we maintain a good relationship with the folks in our lives that don't know Jesus?
Well, number one, obviously, is to continue, never ever stop praying for them. I prayed for my grandmother for 15 years to come to know the Lord, and she did. Very important to be a good testimony, to be open and honest with them. If it's a husband-wife relationship and one is, saved in the home and the other is not, do not nag them. Continue. You need to go to church. You need to go to church. You need to read this verse. You need to do that. Yes, those things are important, but don't nag them because that drives them much further than they'll never get into church. Be forgiving. Be a good listener. If it's in the home, you're going to have issues. It's just part of life, but learn how to handle those issues. Try not to say things in anger and say things that shouldn't come out of our mouth, because many times people say follow your heart, and you shouldn't follow your heart because our heart is very deceitfully wicked. Just use your head, and sometimes I think it's just common sense of what to do and what not to do. We all know what to do, and we know what not to do.
Yeah. I think of 1 Peter, and you referenced the verses a minute ago, or the passage a minute ago, but in 1 Peter, when it talks to those who have a saved spouse, those who are the saved spouse and have an unsaved spouse, I think those verses, while they do connect specifically with marriage, I think they apply to every relationship. If there are people in your life that don't know Jesus, the best way to reach them is by you and I living like Christ every day.
Yeah.
So giving them the grace that God has given us, the forgiveness that God has given us, the honesty that God has given us in his word. There's just so many characteristics of Jesus that we should represent in those relationships. And so maintaining a healthy relationship with our lost family members is crucial. And I'm thankful for the lost family members that we've seen saved on our side of the family and then on my wife's side of the family as well. Well, let me ask you this, Mom, just one last question and some final thoughts. And that is, time is short.
Very.
So how should we think about our time that we have with our family?
You just should spend as much time quality time with your family as you possibly can. I feel like especially your children, because we were just talking about how quickly time goes. And the older you get, believe me, it goes by so quickly. And we were talking about the trauma, the loss that our family's gone through in the last 2 years. Wow, how quickly we know time goes and how precious every single minute is with your family and your children. Dads, I know you have to work, you have jobs, you have to supply and feed your family, and moms, many moms have to work, but don't neglect your family doing that. There is a way to do all that without neglecting your family.
Yeah.
And kids, I know you're busy with games and football and soccer and everything, but you learn to spend time with your moms and dads too. Young kids, old kids, teenagers, it's vital. And I know life is life, but we can learn how to prioritize everything in our life with our family.
Yeah.
It's very important.
It is, because time is short, and those relationships vanish before
Yeah.
we know it.
And you only get one go around.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, let's do this. I just want to give you a few closing thoughts, and want to challenge you with this. So our families need us, whatever life stage we're in, our families need us to invest Christ and invest Jesus into our family, our relationships. And so there's some questions there, but let me give you very quickly just a few words that'll help you invest Jesus in your family. Number one, we covered it a few weeks ago on another topic, is the word intentionality. You've got to be intentional in bringing Jesus into your family, whether that's your marriage, whether that's you as a kid with your parents, whatever it is, we've got to be intentional. Number two, time. If we're going to invest Jesus, we got to spend time with our family and spend time with Him. Number three, I think of the word honesty. Deceitfulness in the home ruins a home faster than you would know. Whether it's a marriage or parents who don't live it for their kids, honesty in the home is a great way to invest Jesus in the home. And then the last word is dedication. There's going to be some times when you just get tired of the day in and day out life. There's going to be times when the devil challenges you and your contentment, and being dedicated to your family and to investing the Lord in it is, I think, just a great word to have in our minds. So intentionality, time, honesty, and dedication. So, Mom, thank you so much for being with us on this. I hope you enjoyed it.
It was fun.
All right. Well, we're going to go to our groups and our questions now, and I'd encourage you to take time and get involved in the discussion tonight. And I know that this lesson has been a help to me. Hope it'd be a help to you. Look forward to seeing you Sunday in our services, 8:30 and 10:30, and we'll have a great day as we worship the Lord together there. So take time in your groups now. We'll see you later.